Dear delegates, dear participants, welcome to the closing ceremony of the 2024 Europe and Central Asia Regional Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction. After 3 days of intense exchanges and sharing of experiences, after several hours of debates at the highest political level, it is now time for all of us to conclude and to bring all this valuable knowledge back to our countries, provinces, cities, for turning words into action. For initiating this ceremony, I would like to remind us that over the past few days, we have all stressed the necessity to further improve inclusion of all stakeholders as actors and beneficiaries of our efforts for assuring a whole society approach for disaster risk reduction. In this context, I am pleased to give the floor to Mr. Gordon Rattray, Program Coordinator at the European Disability Forum and representative of the stakeholder groups for this closing ceremony. Mr. Rattray, the floor is yours.
Yes. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I have been part of these negotiations now for almost 10 years, since before Sendai, and it has been wonderful to watch the progress that we've made as a group led by UNDRR towards where we are now, where we see genuine representation of the diversity of population in these high-level decision-making opportunities and sessions. This is absolutely crucial. As we've heard so much over the last few days, it's the people who are first affected, who are the first responders. And these people need to be empowered to be able to respond to disaster in a way that is effective, not only for themselves, but for everybody in their communities. And I'm not only talking here on behalf of persons with disabilities, but for all people from marginalised groups. I think now the awareness is being raised that these people are not just vulnerable, these people are actually coming with knowledge and expertise that is essential for us all. So I'm looking forward to the future. I'm looking forward to more of these regional and global platforms where we take this a step further. And I'm thinking even that we're talking about leaving no one behind. Maybe we turn it on its head and we say we put the people who are most at risk and with most expertise in the lead. We give them the leadership and we provide the support in financial support, funding and technical expertise, and we use evidence-based that's already beginning to come to the fore to make sure that these groups are the ones that are leading the initiatives moving forward. So I'll stop there. I'll say thank you again to UNDRR, to Montenegro for hosting us, and I look forward to even more inclusion in the future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rattray. I am now pleased to give the floor to Mr. Diego Zorrilla, UN Resident Coordinator in Montenegro. UNDP has been a key partner of host country in organizing this event. Now the floor is yours, Mr. Zorrilla. You can come up here.
Dobar dan. On behalf of the UN system in Montenegro, it is a true honor to be here and to represent all the UN agencies here. And I would like to, we've been very, very pleased to be able to be given the opportunity to support the government of Montenegro in the organization of this conference. And I would like to pay a particular tribute to the work of UNDRR and my friends at UNDP. And mostly congratulate the government of Montenegro for pulling together a conference with more than 700 participants, 55 countries, and congratulations to the great team of the Ministry of Interior. And I think that this paves the way for many other such occasions. And these conferences are truly important, as Gordon was reflecting, and they serve to reinforce the focus and the commitment of a community over goals and agendas that are set 15 years ago that have very long timelines. I think as the UN, I mean, one of the privileged positions in which we find ourselves is that we're talking both to governments and to civil society. And to be in a room like this with so many civil society activists that are so much more effective than governments are and they are at the UN in communicating messages to the population, it's a great privilege. The agenda of these past 3 days focused on the Sendai framework and what needs to be done in order to achieve the Sendai framework is particularly relevant for the Sustainable Development Goals. And we're not doing well with regards to the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. Here in Montenegro, Prime Minister Spajic on the first day outlined 4 priorities, and they're basically around building codes and essential infrastructure and cooperation in the region and the sub-region. And I think this is very, very important. We've talked a lot about climate-induced risks and also about seismology. And here in Budva, he reminded us that this city had been destroyed by an earthquake in 1979. That will be the agenda of the UN in Montenegro, in addition to everything that comes out of the call for action of youth, and congratulations to UNICEF and for helping organize this. And in particular, I wanted to reinforce the importance of the agenda of inclusion of people with disabilities in everything that we do. In a moment, we'll hear the declaration of the forum with all the commitments that come out of it. Finally, all of this requires an all-of-society approach. I know it's a term that is very used, but it is true. I mean, it needs to involve all stakeholders. And as Special Representative Kishore told us this morning, it is a system. It is a whole system that needs to work, and it starts from understanding the risk and then being able to take all of the measures that go with it. I commit the United Nations in Montenegro to keep on working with the Government of Montenegro with these goals. I also, in the immediate region in the West Balkans, enhancing regional and sub-regional cooperation, and through all of the agencies of the United Nations at regional level, working in general with all of you in this region of Central Asia and Europe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Zorilla. I am now pleased to give the floor to Mr. Riccardo Seri, Deputy Head of the EU Delegation to Montenegro. Please, sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure to close this ceremony, close this seminar today on behalf of the European Union. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the contribution and thank the Government of Montenegro for organizing this during these days, UNDRR, of course, the Council of Europe, all participating member states and civil society organizations. Today, together, you have managed to create a collaborative environment dedicated to addressing the challenges of disaster risk reduction around and across our regions. Let me say first that I want to recognize the endorsement, to start with, of the political declaration during the ministerial roundtable. This declaration, in our view, captures the core discussions held here, outlines our joint commitment to COP29, and offers a regional perspectives ahead of the 2025 Global Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction in Geneva. These efforts underscore this collective resolve of Europe and Central Asia to accelerate disaster risk reduction initiatives and deliver on these commitments in these critical years ahead. Now, as we reflect on the discussions that were held here over the past few days, it is clear that building resilience is not an option, is not only an option, it is an urgent necessity. In an evolving risk landscape, our commitment to disaster risk reduction must remain steadfast. The insights gained here and shared here will be essential as we continue to address these complex challenges ahead in the European Union and in the other institutions. In affirming our unified dedication to a safer and more resilient region, we must highlight the importance of ongoing collaboration and decisive action for a sustainable future across Europe and Central Asia. Our joint efforts will not only protect our communities, but also empower vulnerable populations, ensuring that no one is hopefully left behind. As we move forward, our actions must be rooted in the principles of inclusivity and equity. Engaging all stakeholders, including local communities, civil society, the private sector, will be essential to effectively implementing disaster risk reduction strategies that benefit all. And finally, I encourage each participant, many of you, to carry the momentum generated from this regional platform into your daily work. Together, you can turn these commitments into outcomes, meaningful outcomes that embody our dedication to resilience and sustainability. So let us inspire one another as we work towards a safer, greener, and more resilient future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Seri. I would like now to give the floor to Mr. Zeman, Executive Secretary of Europa Major Hazard Agreements, Council of Europe. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I know we are running behind schedule, so I will try to limit my comments to not repeating what was already said, which also we share all these points that were made here. But I will concentrate on a few points that are my takeaways from this forum. First of all, I would like to thank the Montenegrin authorities for hosting this platform, which demonstrates high commitment for disaster risk reduction in Montenegro. And I would also like to thank the co-organizers, principally the UNDRR, the European Commission, and UNDP, who helped to coordinate, UNDRR hosted and we just assisted with organization of this forum. It is not easy to sum up briefly the 3 days of discussions and of networking that happened here during the 3 days of the platform, but I will try nonetheless. We all share the understanding and we share the goal that nobody should be left behind, and that applies directly to persons belonging to most vulnerable groups. In the Council of Europe, this informs our approach of human rights-based and community-led approach. I will note some of the key impressions I take away from Budva. We witnessed here high emphasis being placed on youth empowerment. On day one, there was the Children and Youth Forum, which finalized the work that led to the adoption of the Youth Declaration that was presented at the Ministerial Roundtable. We celebrated the achievement of the laureates of the Youth Risk Communication Challenge and of the Be Safe Net. A number of delegations directly spoke of youth empowerment. The Romanian delegation, for example, spoke of creating a version of guidelines on how to stay safe and how to behave in case of disasters by translating these guidelines into a language that children can understand. In Portugal and Hungary, working groups on empowerment of children and youth were created. Other initiatives to empower stakeholders that are worth noting are, for example, the French example of giving whole-ranging competencies to local authorities and raising awareness of each resident in France by having a specific line in the tax declaration to show where the money goes to increase preparedness in local communities. In Armenia and Austria, there are policies to reduce risk disaster that rely on local and indigenous knowledge, with Austria mentioning specifically local knowledge in the Alpine regions. We heard noteworthy initiatives to develop guidelines on addressing needs of people with specific needs in emergency shelters in Portugal. Our platform also highlighted in sub-sessions and learning labs issues that require specific attention, in particular gender action plans, resilient infrastructure and financing, risk communication, and many others that are too numerous to list. All of this leads me to conclude that in Europe and Central Asia, the process of the implementation of the roadmap for Sendai framework implementation 2021-2030 that was adopted in Matosinhos, in particular as regards the empowerment of all society in DRR approach and risk governance that integrates at all administrative levels, stakeholders, communities, and most at-risk groups is steadily implemented. More could be done and needs to be done, but we should also acknowledge the efforts that are underway and that the Budva platform amply highlighted. I think we can therefore congratulate us all for the richness of the discussions which demonstrated that where we stand today and how the process of Sendai implementation is progressing. The picture is not all bleak. Let's take the positive approach as we part. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Zeman. And now it is my utmost pleasure to welcome Ms. Natalia Alonso Cano to deliver her closing remarks on behalf of UNDRR. The floor is yours.
Well, Excellencies, friends of the community of DR, on behalf of the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, it is my real pleasure to address you at the end of this regional platform. It is my pleasure and it's my relief as well, because we did it, right? we are very grateful, and I know everyone has mentioned it, but it's really sincere, the effort that the government of Montenegro has put in making this a reality, bringing all the community of disaster risk reduction together. So this is really appreciated, and I think they really deserve a lot of recognition for that effort. But this would not have been possible if we were not partnering with the partners of the European Commission, Council of Europe, and also the support of UNDP. So very much thank you to all the partners for making that reality. At the end of the day, this is our platform, but this is your platform. It was thanks very much to you, all the effort, all the preparations, all the initiatives that you have taken to make it a reality and interesting for everyone. So this is our platform of all the community. And that's why we wanted, that's what the tagline, so to say, of the platform was empowering communities and building resilience. Because this is the space for exchange and learning. So over the last 3 days, obviously, we have learned a lot, we have shared a lot, we have talked a lot about the expectations, the risks, the challenges that we are all facing. But it's important what has been mentioned, that is a whole of society approach. So each and every one of you, from the government delegates to the state actors, would have a very important role to play. Of course, we discussed a number of things. I'm not trying to enumerate the things that we have discussed, but maybe just to keep in mind a couple of points. We cannot work on what we don't understand. So understanding risk and how this is evolving is essential, and a lot of that has been happening here, because we need that information to build resilience. But how, it's not only understanding risk, but how do we communicate? And the last sessions have been very telling about that, and the role of the communities in doing that in a meaningful and effective way. How we coordinate between the different entities of the ministries, but also with all the stakeholders, is not easy. Yes, we talk whatever, but then we forget, and then we come back again. We need to have a concerted learning about how we work together, because we cannot miss anyone, and it has been mentioned a number of times. And also, I was really inspired, particularly about the youth and children. I mean, their innovations, what they bring, and what, the vulnerable groups, yeah, they are vulnerable, they have specific needs, but they're also leading, as Gordon was mentioned, they can be very much leading agents on that. And of course, the early warning systems, and obviously that is very close to my heart, given that what has been happening in Spain. But in spite of all the progress and the things that we've been discussing, we still face a lot of challenges. I think we progress a lot, but the challenge that we have in front of us is pretty huge. So we need all of us to really act together and accelerate. The business as usual is not going to work, and we know that, and we are conscious of that. So we need all of us to work on that. I'm very appreciative about the political declaration and how the member states are recommitting to share that a commitment precisely to increase the resilience. We hope that this message is going to be carried through, because this platform is an important milestone, but it's not the end. It's only a contributing, for example, to the COP29 in Baku. But also in the future, to work together on a number of issues that came out of this platform. We have, for example, the call for action on earthquake preparedness, and we'll be working and calling member states and stakeholders interested in working and having a much more deep dive understanding on that in the coming months. As the Sendai framework reminds us, disaster risk reduction is everyone's business. So each of you bring different perspectives, expertise, and we share that today and in these days in the platform. In a spirit of collective action, let's commit to the whole of society approach. And I would like you to take 5 seconds, just close your eyes, think of one thing you're taking away from this platform, and that one thing that you are committing yourself to do. Whatever, it can be just talking to your family, talking to your, departments, talking, you think about one thing that you're taking from this platform and one thing you're going to be doing to collectively have action. So just 5 seconds, close your eyes, relax, and think about that. All right, so you have in mind a little bit what you're taking from here, what you want to do. So I think together we can really forge a safer, more resilient for all in a real way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Alonso Cano. And now I'm especially honored to give the floor to Mr. Ljuban Tmušić, Head of Department for Civil Protection and Disaster Risk Reduction in Rescue and Protection Directorate, who will give us the political declaration from the Ministerial Roundtable and formally close 2024 European Forum for Disaster Risk Reduction. The floor is yours.
Thank you, my special dear colleague. Thank you. Firstly, I want to send regards to all of you from our General Director. He is not now here with us because he has a little health problem, and we hope that he will be very good in the next 1 or 2 hours after that. The second thing is I will continue talking on Montenegrin language. We have a very beautiful language, and because that I want to talk on the closing remarks on our Montenegrin language. And please take your microphone, and I will continue on Montenegrin. Dear delegates,
dear delegates, partners, and guests, as we are
microphone. Poštovani delegati,
dear delegates, esteemed partners, and guests, as we are drawing to a close of this very significant event, I wish to express my sincere appreciation to each and every one of you for taking an active participation on the platform, Europe and Central Asia Regional Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction. This European Forum, or regional platform, the host of which was the Government of Montenegro, organized in a beautiful city of Budva, represents the cornerstone for each and every one of us as we face growing challenges that are posed by the disaster risks. In the past days, we took part in discussions that reflect our joint commitment to the implementation of the Sendai framework. We explored numerous potential risks that are the result of climate change, swift urbanization, and socioeconomic development. As emphasized during various sessions, the intensity and frequency of these events, floods, heat waves, fires, wildfires, are not an anomaly. They are our reality that jeopardizes our assets and lives. During this forum, we were able to hear about the increase in terms of the damages and costs related to catastrophes. This calls for resilience and preparedness of our communities for challenges that we are about to face. Moreover, we understand that new threats, including cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns, make our efforts even more challenging. This is why the call for regional cooperation has never been more urgent. As we prepare for the COP29 in Azerbaijan, this is something we take into consideration, and for the upcoming platform in Geneva as well. Montenegro will, with pride, present the results of this platform, as well as the strategy for reduction of the disaster risk reduction for the period from 2025-2030 adopted by the government last week. We will jointly endeavor to set even more ambitious goals of resilience. In the region that is on the lines of a seismic area where swift urbanization increased the vulnerability, the representative of the Government of Montenegro asked for an important call to strengthen the regional cooperation and improve technical capacities and boost investments also in this area. This European Forum marked a historic crossroads when it comes to including various stakeholders with reference to Sendai framework in the region of Europe and Central Asia. And of course, I'm making reference to this specific format. It was inspiring to witness various attitudes represented here, starting from the young people, persons with disabilities, those engaged in the private sector and gender equality rights, who contributed to providing valuable perspectives in our discussions. Your perspectives are extremely valuable because we wish to work on the integration of measures relevant for this disaster risk reduction in various sectors. Now I would call my colleague Christina, who will read the political declaration that represents the outcome document of this platform.
As ministers and representatives from across Europe and Central Asia, we convene in Budva, Montenegro, at 2024 Europe and Central Asia Regional Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction, at a crucial juncture to confront the escalating impacts of climate change and the urgent need for enhanced disaster risk reduction. Meeting just ahead of COP29 in Baku and on the brink of the final 5-year countdown for the achievement of Sendai Framework, Paris Agreement and Sustainable Development Goals, this ministerial roundtable serves as a critical platform to reaffirm our shared commitment to building a safer, more resilient future for our communities, economies and ecosystems. The region faces a growing array of risks, intensified by climate change, economic vulnerabilities, and geopolitical tensions. While significant strides have been made in reducing disaster-related human losses through improved prevention and preparedness, economic losses due to disasters are projected to increase. Climate-induced disasters, such as extreme weather conditions, wildfires, floods, and accelerated glacier melting, are becoming more frequent and intense. Earthquakes and other non-climate-related hazards also pose severe risks, underscoring the multifaceted nature of our shared challenges. The Global Infrastructure Risk Model and Resilience Index estimates annual losses in Europe and Central Asia due to geological and climate-related hazards at over $206 billion. We need to stop the cycle of destruction. Armed with this knowledge, we collectively call for targeted action in line with the European Forum for Disaster Risk Reduction Roadmap 2021-2030 that was agreed to at the last regional platform in Matosinhos, Portugal. ECA roadmap provides a clear pathway toward the implementation of the Sendai framework, oriented around 4 priority areas. We commit to advancing the following objectives. Area 1, understanding and communicating existing, emerging and future systemic risks, scale up integrated DRR and climate action. Area 2, inclusive and collaborative system for governance and decision-making, strengthen stakeholder engagement, break down silos between ministries. Area 3, supporting investments in resilience. Enhance disaster and climate risk finance, increase resilient and green infrastructure, advocate for ambitious nationally determined contributions. Area 4, preparedness for response and resilient recovery, advance early warning systems. As a next step, we commit to echo this call for action and bringing these messages to COP29 in Baku, ensuring that the priorities highlighted here will bridge the gap between DRR and climate communities. Pursue intensified action to address climate-driven risks and other natural hazards with an emphasis on actions above. disseminate the launch of Montenegro Call for Action, Earthquake Preparedness and Recovery, recognizing the severe threat posed by earthquakes in the region. This initiative emphasizes enhanced preparedness, resilient infrastructure, and coordinated response and recovery efforts, aiming to galvanize regional cooperation, strengthen technical capacity, and drive investment toward earthquake resilience to better prepare communities for future disasters. Acknowledge the road to resilience for Europe and Central Asia's children and youth, call for action, and to continue to work with children and youth stakeholders on bringing the demands raised therein to fruition. The coming years are critical for delivering on our collective commitments and ensuring a resilient future for all. Let us seize the moment to demonstrate leadership, foster collaboration, and drive transformative action in disaster risk reduction and climate adaptation across Europe and Central Asia.
Još nekoliko rečenica.
Some additional remarks from my side. As we move forward, let us bring the spirit of cooperation that molded our experience here in Montenegro. Thank you very much once again for your dedication and commitment and engagement. Thanks to the UNDP team in Montenegro. Thank you to Natalie. Thank you to Sebastian. Thank you to UNDRR team that supported us significantly. Thank you to the IT support that made a significant effort to organize this conference at the level that we had. Thank you very much to the interpreters who have been sitting behind this room, who had a very challenging task in these days, and that made this conference a very nice experience. And thank you very much to the hotel and the hotel staff that assisted us with organizing this conference. And in my opinion, this has been a very successful conference. I wish you a safe travel back to your homes. I wish to see us all with even more energy, and you are more than welcome to revisit us here in Montenegro. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you, Mr. Tmušić. It only remains for me, on behalf of everyone, to thank HE Prime Minister Milojko Spajić, HE Minister of the Interior Mr. Danilo Šaranović, Rescue and Protection Directorate, as well as the City of Budva for their generous hospitality and extraordinary efforts in organizing such a successful platform. I would finally like to sincerely thank the volunteers who have tremendously supported our meetings and our journey in Montenegro. Nothing is never possible without volunteers. 2024 Europe and Central Asia Regional Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction is now formally closed. We look forward to seeing you again in 2027. Thank you very much.